to my flavor to prolong my life over the drum. Everyone keeps on being hot. It's about if you can handle being cold or not. And we were told the hot, but no one to take my friends home. Stay original, ever since y'all. First to do a lot of things in the game, but the last the same. Don't need to place it on the scale to win. And don't do it for the praise or the rage to bar. Yeah, this place is anyways so amazing. The three LI brothers from the other way of thinking. Your ladies thinking, I think you can do it. The elements of air, boy, I smell success.
Is this the microphone?
That's the camera.
Yeah.
Sorry if I made it.
No, just all playing with that. I think we're in the clear.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Desert Island Supply Company. My name is Brian. I'm the executive director at DISCO. And we're so happy that everybody can be here tonight. And we're so thrilled to welcome Ashley Jones on the event of her book launch for Reparations Now. DISCO, just to let you know where we are, the Desert Island Supply Company is a nonprofit creative writing and publishing center located right here in Woodlawn. And we work with students in the Birmingham City Schools and specifically in the Woodlawn neighborhood, primarily in the Woodlawn neighborhood, in writing workshops. And so we go into schools and we also host writing workshops here in a normal year. And we work with students in the 2nd through the 12th grade, teaching them how to write poetry mostly, although we dabble in some other genres also, but it's primarily poetry. At the end of each year, we publish our students' work in an anthology, and the students often will come here in a normal year. Again, in a non-COVID year, they'll come here for a book launch and a reading. This last year was bizarre for everybody, and for our students in our schools, it was a real challenge to continue working with them. But we still managed to work with them over Zoom. And we worked with classes of students in Putnam and Avondale and I3 Academy, as well as some students at Woodlawn High School. But one of the great things about, I shouldn't say one of the great things, I guess one of the upsides of COVID, which is such a difficult year for so many people and was particularly difficult for many of our students who felt really lonely and lost last year, and they just missed their friends and their teachers and many of the things that they were used to doing. One of the upswings to our year, as we tried to figure out what to do in the face of COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown, was that we were able to work with students one-on-one on Zoom. And our opening reader tonight is one of those students whose name is Jakiria Price. And Jakiria was in 9th grade last year, and she worked with our DISCO staff member, Elizabeth Dario, who's sitting right here. And I want to just give great thanks and welcome to both Elizabeth and Jakiria. Through the magic of Zoom, they were able to connect and to write together and to explore and investigate and dig into what Jakiria was experiencing and figuring out. And the result was a book that Jakiria has just published through DISCO. We published it for Jakiria, called Memories Over Admission. And so it is my great honor to introduce tonight Jakiria Price, who is reading for the first time from her book, Memories Over Admission. Please make her welcome.
Everyone. My name is Yakiria Price, and today I'm going to be reading y'all some poems from my new book called Memories Over Admission. The first poem will be Summertime Down South. I roll the window down because of the heat, then roll it back when I see the police, knowing I don't have my seatbelt on. Then I wipe my eyes. My allergies, I need Benadryl. When I run out to get something from the mailbox with no shoes on, I ignore the heat. The concrete burns my soles. Something mailed to the wrong house again. It's hot when I go to the pool and pay the $1 to swim. I feel the metal gates hit my skin when I throw my towel in. I don't care how long I stay. I don't have church tomorrow because of the heat alone. I sleep in. It's the summer on my 12th birthday. I eat teeth-rotting candy. I'm getting taller, 4'8" to 5 foot. Growing is good. I don't want to be too short for too long. I swat mosquitoes from my legs and arms. Pollen sprays everything yellow. My uncle barbecues. The radio's loud with music made before my time. I shouldn't eat so much candy. My teeth will fall out. The heat is unbearable, laying in patio chairs. The news says it'll rain tomorrow. Everyone knows it won't. Still a chance though. The weather won't stay like this forever. It's still hot when I walk into school. No more uniforms again. It's my 8th grade year and I still walk in a hoodie and shorts. Same school, same people for the last 3 years. And after this, it'll be the same summer. Negro spiritual. Memories and memories. I spent February listening to my teachers teach the same thing about Martin Luther King and Thurgood Marshall. Memories that have been replaced. They say what they teach is the truth, but only teach from the mouth of the scared. Memories over admission. They would do anything not to educate us, to keep us in boxes, making us self-educate, to raise our children to not believe what they are taught in school, but from the word of their ancestors' mouth. Memories over the people. Our people sing Negro spirituals high and with power to let the heavens and God know of our mistreatments. Fear over freedom. They put us in basements, hoping to quiet us down, hating to hear our screaming from down under, but knowing that if we were freed, we'd scream in their faces. The people over the lives. What they teach us are no memories. They are lives derived from white weakness and fear. So I listen to my great aunt's Negro spirituals and my church's screams until someone answers. Worm work. I walk home, a child in fear. These may be my last days. I may walk my last ways, wrapped and packed in a rug or felt like fabric. My skin is itchy and inflamed. My allergies reacting. That's how I know I'm not supposed to be here. I always keep my distance from itchy things. Being teared apart piece by piece may be Donner style because I am missing an arm. But really worms doing worm work in me now, bug food, demolished tooth by tooth. Bug dirt is something I'd never choose to be if I really had the choice. Sorry for the worry, though simply suspicion, early fear like a newborn deer during hunting season, wondering, will his fragile legs move fast enough? Someone said, only when you leave the past in the past can you go into the future. So Today's my funeral. I sit in my casket holding myself hostage. I've changed while I sit here. I've grown a whole inch. My hair is closer to where I want it, standing tall and wide. But I still sit here hiding from the sun, knowing it'll expose me to the world. I am stuck in this tight, cold space, trying to find comfort in old places, songs, people. But I can't remember what those things were, how to keep my mind on and let myself be warmed, even though I kept myself in constant cold. The warmth forcing my body to twist and turn in the public, exposed and open. She tries to force my covering off so she can hold me fully, not just bring a blush to my face. The sun forced the temperature rising from her body until it soared above me, not moving, never letting me leave. She wanted me to show myself. These thoughts are old and I have to let them go. Holding on to what I could remember is no longer an option. I'm done now. I have kept myself trapped for too long. I want to feel warm. It's so snug on my arms when it used to feel so spacious. Just another sign that I've outgrown this small place that I call home. A casket meant for someone who's done growing was never meant for someone my age. I tried to convince myself I don't want to leave, but no matter how hard I yell it after hearing the same lies, I can no longer persuade myself. Finally, with no more goodbyes, I dig with nothing but light on my mind, barely remembering what the sun's rays felt like. Wanting that feeling back, I dig, and I dig, and I dig, until I finally feel the sun. After so long being hidden and holding myself to my thoughts for warmth, hoping my mind will keep me busy, pretending I love the cold and the dark when truly I've hated it since I was young. I finally let myself be enveloped by the warmth of the sun and her blinding beauty. I am okay with being exposed, and I am okay with feeling out. Because I finally realized the only person who cared was me. The way she shines and warms me makes me tingle with goosebumps. I let her heat take its claim, and with a welcoming smile, she embraces me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen. I'm one of the owners of Thank You Books in Crestwood North, just up the way. My partner, Laura, is in the back. She is selling Ashley's book. Some of y'all have already seen her, but she will be around also after the reading. Jakiria, thank you for sharing your poems with us. What a wise and beautiful poet you are. It was very special. We're so excited that this event is happening. I think we've been starved for in-person literature. And although things look a little different, we're very glad to be here. We're so happy for Ashley Jones and awed by her many accomplishments. And I wanted to take advantage of being together to give a rousing round of applause for our newly minted Poet Laureate. Ashley M. Jones holds an MFA in poetry from Florida International University, and she is the author of 2 previous collections, Magic City Gospel, Dark Thing. Her poetry has earned several awards, including the Rona Jackie Foundation Writers Award, the Silver Medal in the Independent Publishers Book Awards, the Lena Miles Weaver Todd Prize for Poetry, a Literature Fellowship from the Alabama State Council on the Arts, the Lucille Clifton Poetry Prize, and the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award. She was a finalist for the Ruth Lily Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship in 2020. Her poems and essays appear in or are forthcoming at CNN, Poetry, the Oxford American, Origins Journal, The Quarry, I Split This Rock, Obsidian, and many others. She teaches creative writing at the Alabama School of Fine Arts and in the low residency MFA at Converse College. Jones co-directs Penn Birmingham, and she's the founding director of the Magic City Poetry Festival. She recently served as a guest editor for Poetry Magazine. Reparations Now is a profound exploration of what it means to make amends and if and how it's possible to repair the self, the nation, and the world. It does not shy away from the darkest truths, nor does it leave us without hope. It's such a pleasure and an honor to introduce Ashley M. Jones.
Hello, everybody. Wow, Catherine. Hey, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in thousands of years. Wow, thank y'all so much for coming and for clapping. People who know me very well know that I can't really cry in public, but got real close. So thank you. And I want to say hello to the viewing audience. Hopefully y'all can hear me. I am using my teacher voice, so it's very loud. And I also just want to start by giving just a moment of silence for Voice Porter. I just came from the memorial poetry reading for him. And if you didn't know Voice Porter, you probably didn't live in Birmingham, or in Alabama for that matter. He was and is an amazing poet and community organizer. So if we could just take 5 seconds just to send him a good thought wherever he is in the beyond. Thank you. So, Zakaria, thank you for reading. My goodness. I can't believe are you in the 10th grade? Is that true? Yeah, I was not that good in the 10th grade. So you're fantastic. I can't wait to read your book. Thank you to Kristen and Thank You Books and Brian and Disco and Liz way back in the back and everybody who had a part in making this happen. And thank you all for being here in your masks. I am very anxious to be here with all of you, but I'm very happy that I get to see your faces and read. So I'm going to read 10 poems for y'all. Everybody knows that I give you the number so you can count your way down if you are like me and you just want to know what you're in for. So you're in for 10. I want to start by inviting my dad into the room. Many of you know that I lost my dad, Chief Donald Lewis Jones, in April, and really the world is not a real place that I am in, and so I want to address him directly. Dad, I know you're here somewhere, so this poem is for you. Dad, every blade of grass wears your name. On the wind, you laugh in great swaths of air. Now the days feel more like years because you're gone. Only memories hold your voice and the crack of your knees stretching in the night. Listen, I want to tell you about a man who was deliberate, delicate in his loving, complete in his care. Let me show you my skin, my blood, which is his. Even the sunrise I hold with his eyes, which are my eyes, my heart, which is his. In the quiet times, we wonder where you are. Sometimes feels like your truck will turn the corner just in time for dinner. Your keys chiming up the stairs. Out in the garden, your plants still grow. Now we will give them water and time. Every season, a harvest started by your hands, showing your love, all encompassing forever. So in that same vein, I should say too, I'm a reader who does not mind noise. So if ever you want to make any noise at all, as long as it's not offensive to anyone else, please feel free to make it. Since I read about my dad, I want to read about my mom, who is in that computer in the otherwhere at home. And this poem is really just about how lucky I was to have a mom and a dad, honestly, who always made sure I knew that I was worthy and that being Black was a gift. So this is She is Beauty, She is Grace. And it's for Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and Oluwatoyin Salau and so many killed Black girls. My mother always told me I was beautiful. She oiled my scalp with proud mother care. She bought me baby and Barbie dolls who shared my skin, brown beauties who smiled back at me, whose infinite stories I told each day in my playtime heaven. My mother gave me dreams and a Barbie dream house. She gave me the right way to tie my shoes and tuck my shirt. She gave me a well-perfumed joy. She told me how God made me Black and worthy. She gave me lullabies, badly but beautifully sung. She gave me midnight snacks when I couldn't sleep. My mother gave me love, gave me life. She knew, surely, what awaited me outside her door. She knew what she and Dad could not stop, knew the world outside of Barbies and Sesame Street and songs and bubbles and hair barrettes was plotting my demise, that it waited to gulp each of my little girl giggles. She knew it, so she filled me up to the brim with every dream and every smile and every assurance that I was made beautiful and full of a life that mattered, that nothing could steal that. She knew the world would threaten that peace, but that those sparkling moments, that love, that life, that beauty, were all worth fighting for. Okay, I hope y'all can see out there. I don't have no way to really check on the people on YouTube, but I hope that it's working. So I want to read another poem about my parents. I love my parents and my siblings a lot. And this poem, interestingly, y'all can't see this, but if you have the book, it's the first one in the book. It looks like a starburst, sort of. Shout out to Mary Seabist for that idea. She didn't give it to me. She wrote her own book and I read it and took the idea. But this poem, I actually wrote it one summer. Every time I got on the road, this was pre-pandemic in the before times. Whenever I got on the road to do whatever I was doing that summer, somehow there was a tow truck in front of me. And I didn't really know what that was about. I was like, well, I mean, what's the message, you know? And then I noticed on these tow trucks that there's that crossbar which for some reason I never noticed before. And I said to myself, that's kind of Jesus-y, you know? It feels like Jesus. So I said, well, God, what is it? What exactly do you want me to know from all these tow trucks? Am I going to get a crash? Like, what exactly is it? And for whatever reason, what was given to me was a poem about God and my parents, who I think were my first example of what godly love is. Yeah, so I'll just read it. It's called Hymn of Our Jesus and the Holy Tow Truck. Is it that easy, God, to be pulled, or as if a car half crushed, maybe to follow on the back of a tow truck? And incidentally, Lord, is that you I see flexed on the crossbar of a rusty wrecker on its way to the east side of Birmingham, which is like Eden, growing holy fruit? My mother, the summer plot of peach. My father, the strong tomato, its unbending vine. Did you teach them to grow in this way, in the sweat of Alabama, strong as the dying crow, its blood-hardened wing straight as a crucifix, pointing always, easily, stubbornly, straight up, pious as a bone toward you? So I have to also thank Catherine publicly and embarrass you for editing this book. Thank you for helping it come into the world. Catherine edits for Hub City Press. So if you have a memoir, talk to Catherine. All right, so I'm gonna read more about God. For a long time, I thought that I couldn't write about God because I'm a literary poet. And you know, in school they tell you, don't talk about religion sometimes. But I decided, you know, in this book, I really wanted to just be myself, and that means I'm going to talk about everything, including God and what God is to me. So this poem is called God Made My Whole Body. God made my whole body, and the way it moves, and the way it shakes and jiggles and plops. And God made my smile, and the 1,000 tears that fall from my eyes. God made the sun and the moon and the leaf held loosely in my godson's perfect little hand. And God made the summer breeze and the guitar Ron Isley crooned over. And God made the grass and the bugs and the dogs and the trees. And God made all of our bodies to make waste. And God made even the waste that lives in us. And God made the way the world spins and the way it will shake us right off if we don't act right. And God made the rivers which make it possible for us to drink. And God made the clouds which hold the rain. And God made the birds which fly and the wolves that howl. God made the folds of my brain and the thoughts that burrow there. God made my belly, my uterus, and all the little eggs which might become children. God made the doubt that rests there like bubbling gas. God made the silence I wrap around myself some nights alone. God made the music we sing and the music we hate. God made the ears which help us stay balanced, help us to hear what people say behind our backs and in front of them. God made sweet potato pie and aunties and mamas who know how to add just enough nutmeg. God made my whole body. And God made my grandma and her gold tooth. And God made my grandma and her curly wig. And God made my grandma I didn't know. And God made my grandpa who was a ghost and my grandpa who was a terror. God made fear and the way it slices us up thin and flimsy. God made the way a hand quivers before it strikes. God made pain. God made the blood which runs and keeps us running. God made an everlasting red. Okay, so switching gears just a little bit. This book is about all kinds of reparations, not just the ones that we are definitely owed by the government, for sure, but also those personal reparations that we're owed from relationships that maybe have taken something from us. So this poem is one that I wrote in an attempt to erase a memory of a man from existence. Because poetry can do that. It can help to rub people out if that's what you want to do. And the poem's form, I have to give credit to my friend, the poet Monica Sook, who has an amazing book out called A Nail the Evening Hangs On. And I swear I'm not a commercial, like I've already given all these like pitches. I just like supporting my friends a lot. So her book is amazing, you should buy it. But she was at the Kenyan Writers Workshop last summer. And she was telling me about every day, like what she was being asked to write. And she was studying with Carl Phillips, another amazing poet. And one of the exercises that he gave was to write in the subjunctive tense. And that's like, if I were, if I did, that kind of thing. I'm not a grammar teacher, so that's the furthest you're gonna get on that. And so I, who did not go to the Kenyan Writers Workshop, I took that exercise for free. And I decided to write this poem, again, like I said, in which I wanted to undo a past with a particular man who was not very kind to me. Summer vacation in the subjunctive. If I were a woman, if I were a wanted woman, if I were a woman with soft fingers, if I were on a beach with a man, if he was a man, if a man can be a man before he acts like a man, if I were on a beach with a man and he held my hand, if I liked my hand being held, even if it was held at the wrong angle, if my wrist was ringing in pain, but I kept it there, if my heart were held wrong, like my hand, if I kept it there, if I was kept in pain, if I were pain, if I were a woman, if I were a woman before I was a woman, if I were a woman who knew her body like a woman knows her body, if a woman knew, if I knew, if I were on a beach with that man, if this time that man dissolved into sand, if the sand became hot under my feet, but my feet were gold, if a woman were made of sun, if I were made of sun, if I burned the world around me until it shone beautiful and brown, if this burning was called healing, if the healing made light. Okay, so staying in that vein for a little bit, this is a poem that I wrote recently, and it comes out of a frustration. Being a Black woman, often people make you feel like you're unlovable, or if somebody loves you, it's because you have some extra thing, like maybe it's, oh, you have long hair for a Black girl, I can love you now, or you have the right skin color, I can love you now, or I have jungle fever, I can love you now. And so I was really sick of that, and I said, I just want to assert that all of us who are Black women are lovable and tender and worth saving and worth everything just the way we are. It is entirely possible for a Black girl to be loved. See me, Black as I am, and call me beautiful. No revolution necessary, no brave needed, just loving me. It is not unusual to love me, Black as I am. It is not because I'm so strong, so exotic, so walk on the wild side. What side? See my skin. It's not chocolate or coffee or caramel. It is inedible. It is nothing to see with colonizers' eyes, nothing to trap with pity or praise, nothing to bruise, to make purple with your power. My skin is soft like anything soft. It is a reflection of God. It is a heavenly mirror. Don't you see that? You're there too. Black as I am, I can shine anything back. Even the sun wants to cling to me. So if you're counting down, we have made it to poem 7 of 10. It's important to me, y'all. I know I'm a poet, I've been a poet for a long time, but sometimes when you're sitting and reading, you're like, how long is it though? Y'all know, I mean, it's transitioning us into our activist Ashley part of the reading. And the story behind this poem is that I was going to speak at a local school. I think they were maybe middle school students. And the woman emailed me back after I had sent her my website link and some samples of my work. And she said, oh, I don't think this is gonna work anymore because of the content. I don't know what that means, the content. But I was really taken aback because she didn't ask me, can you tailor your work to this audience? Can you show me poems about X, Y, and Z? Instead, she just assumed that's too much, whatever that is, and uninvited me to speak. And it made me think about, of course, all of the foremothers who came before me, who, like Sonia Sanchez, who faced a lot of discrimination for being outspoken and also teaching, that people didn't want their students to be taught by someone who had such radical views. Now, of course, her views were not very radical to me. They were just everybody deserves to have an equal life, and we should be able to learn about our culture. But I just felt something that I had never felt before. And it did hurt my feelings quite a lot. I'm not saying that I can never be uninvited somewhere. It's just the fact that she didn't try, to work with me. I'm a teacher. That's my job. I know how to talk to students. I know what to read to students. But again, for whatever reason, she decided not to bring me. So I thought to myself, well, let me try to write a poem that's totally not political. And so I tried. People are laughing. Yes. It's not political though. Like, just go with me. It's totally non-political. And it's a sonnet, which is just a pristine art form. Wow. So yeah, it's a Shakespearean sonnet until it's not. And I think you'll be able to tell when it is not. Poem in which I am too political to read at your school. A rose, single, silent, and soft, opens. Red petals, tender, innocent, fragrant. What beauty, how holy, peace unbroken in the rose's solid stem. O ancient wonder, rose of unsullied joy, I sing to the majesty of your sun-loved face, your color so pure, petal fine as wing, leaf's thin veins a natural cousin of lace. Even your thorns are worthy of my praise, their spikes but soldiers keeping you from harm. A stab could set my fingers all ablaze, but still your grace would silence all alarm. Except the rose was black and you killed it. Black and you silenced it. Black and you raped it. Black and it could not vote. Black and it got in the wrong garden, so you had to use pesticide, had to poison its water, and all the little black rose babies had to stop teaching it to read. It was black, so you pulled it up by the roots with a knife shaped just like America, just like the government, just like white Jesus, just like your mouth leaking bless your heart. You severed its roots and you chewed them whole, and you smiled as it withered, searching for home. Totally not political though, right? Not at all. I love that poem because I'm not often vengeful, I'll say that. I'm really not, like I really believe vengeance is the Lord's, but sometimes vengeance is Ashley's too. So. Okay, so the next poem is actually two poems, and these are also sonnets, but not ironically, they're earnestly, sonnets. And these two poems are linked sonnets, and they're about two lynchings. So I'll say right now, it's a content warning. These two poems do depict lynchings. And these lynchings actually were almost 100 years apart to the day. The lynchings of Mary Turner and Stephon Clark. Each poem has a little epigraph, which I'll read before I go into the piece, which will give you some information about each situation. What else? Oh, and the titles are inspired by one of my favorite hymns, Mary, Don't You Weep. Mary, Don't You Weep, or Mary Turner Resurrected. When Mary Turner threatened to press charges for the wrongful lynching of her husband in Brooks County, Georgia, on May 19, 1918, she was strung upside down, her clothes were burned off, and her unborn baby was cut from her womb and stomped to death. Turner was shot repeatedly, and she and her baby were buried close by their murder site. Like all resurrections, it began with blood, dirt, unending light. The Georgia moss punctuated by camellias, their white hurt stretching across Brooks County. No blight to stain their leaves, just the ash falling bloody from Mary's emblazoned womb. Her baby, a fire, its single soft cry still igniting the air. Could it be that even this baby, even this one-breathed angel was crucified to save us all? Maybe. Maybe Mary and her baby flew up from death in sweaty Georgia, her shallow grave shaken loose, finally free, resurrected. It turns out, all along, hell was earth. What else could she name that rock covered in leaf and loam? Not loving, not hopeful, and most certainly not home. Stephon, don't you moan, or to serve and protect. 22-year-old father of two, Stephon Clark, was shot 20 times on March 19, 2018 by Sacramento police in his grandmother's backyard. The gun police claimed to have seen him carrying was his iPhone. Is there a police protocol for grace? For the moment between show us your hands and shoot? That night, policeman, servant of the gun, did you give space for a man's innocence to bloom? Despite the loaded weight of your finger on the trigger, despite how the night painted that man bigger, made him a giant with a fireball in his hands, despite the loud explosion of your fright, innocence is for softer things, an open, empty palm, a blooming flower, a spread of rocks becoming sand. Silly civilization, you thought we'd evolved beyond abuse of power. But again, a pruning. What a flower you were, Stefan, and what holiness in your body opening, petaled in the white helicopter light. This an Armageddon of bullets, flowers, stars, stripes. Okay. Oh, I meant to tell a story about that one. Dang it. So how do I start that story? I was very fortunate to receive the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award from St. Mary's College of Maryland, which is the university at which Lucille Clifton taught. And she's my favorite poet. Many of you probably know it and are tired of me talking about her, but I don't care. I will keep talking about her because she's amazing. But I was able to receive this award, and the poet Sonia Sanchez was the person who gave me the award, which, wow, is incredible. And so we were doing events that day, and during our morning event, we had to do a little mini reading and a discussion. And so I had to read some poems in front of Sister Sonia. And so I decided to read these two poems that I just read because they were the most recent, and I was kind of like, I don't know what I could read in front of her that would, do any justice to poetry, because I mean, she's Sonia Sanchez. So I read these poems very nervously, and I remember I'm never going to forget this moment for my entire life. But she was sitting there, and she's only a pocket-sized, person. She's very, very tiny. She was sitting there with her eyes closed. When I finished the poem, she said, "Now you all see why I chose our dear sister to win this award." And I was like, well, I'm finished. I don't have to write I'm good. This is the highest level I can reach. So whenever I read these poems, of course, I think about the horrors of what happened, but I also think about the legacy of Sister Sonia. And I feel like I'm at least walking along behind her. I don't know if I've picked up the baton quite yet, but I'm in her shadow very happily. So we have made it now to poem 9. So it's the last 2 poems. And this one is one that I wrote out of anger. So as you know, we're in a pandemic. And around the time of the vaccine rollouts here, I knew that there was going to be some discrepancy about who gets them first. Sure enough, as the vaccines began to be available, people started having issues getting appointments. I am a teacher at a high school, so I really wanted to get one so I could be there with my students and not feel completely anxious. I mean, there's always anxiety, of course. I have a mask on right now, anxiety. But, I wanted to get that vaccine. And a lot of my friends and I who are on this poet thread, a lot of my poet friends were on a group text together, and we had been talking about how there was some issue with certain people getting vaccines. Here in Alabama, of course, there were people who drove hours and hours out of the way to get their vaccine, which, I mean, do what you got to do. But then I also thought, what about the people who live there? What happens to their vaccines? Is this fair? And so in my rage trying to find a vaccine appointment, I texted in this thread and I said, this is how everything always is. It's the colonial, grip or something like that. And so I was just going off in the text thread and my friends were like, yeah, we agree. Well, they didn't say it like that. There was more colorful language than that. But so I texted the last couplet of the poem that I'm going to read. And when I texted in the chat, my friend said, that sounds like a poem. And I said, maybe it is. Should I write a poem? And they said, yeah. And I said, hold on. So I went and I wrote the poem. And the poem, I think, tells the story of America. And everything that ever happens here is kind of following the same story, unfortunately, because we have not yet faced anything in our past. Manifest destiny. And so he learned that the land could be called a name. So he called it mine. And so he learned it could be bordered with blood. And so he called it conquest. And he learned that the land was willing to give fruit and flower. And he called it profit. And so he saw some other folk planting and praising, and he called them enemy. And so he saw there were armies to guard those flowering folk, and he called them prey. And so he saw the ocean, and what was it but a highway to make more borders? And so he saw the bright and peaceful sea, and he littered it with trade. The bodies stacked next to the crops, the textiles, and the rot of disease. And so he ground hope and God into dust and called it rights. And so he heard the wind blowing joy over its people, and he sliced it up with law. And so he kept slicing for 500 years. And so he built his things around him. And so his coffers never emptied. And so he took wives and made children. And so he gave them too a price. And so he saw each blade of grass and counted it as currency. And so his blood was transfused with gold. And so he built a wall around himself to keep his many riches in, the walls encased with bone, even his heart, a fortress of muscle and money. Listen now, your past and future generations, your hoarded haul will spoil where you stand. All right, we've made it to the last poem of the evening. It's weird to read in person. I'm like forgetting to not lock my knees standing here. So if I just pass out, it's because I'm locking my knees here. So this last poem is the title poem of the book, and the story of how it came about. I forget what exactly I was teaching, but whatever I was teaching, a poem or story or something, took me to George Wallace's inaugural speech from 1963. And I had never read the entire speech for obvious reasons, I think. I mean, it didn't seem like a pleasant activity, really. But something told me, I always listen to whatever is telling me something. Something said, read that whole speech. So I printed out the speech and I read it. I was reading it while my students were doing work. And I was just like, just like crossing things out and highlighting. And I said to myself, this sounds like what Trump said just yesterday. These are his exact words almost. And I think it really, I always knew that the progress narratives that we hear are not always true, but seeing how closely Wallace's words were to our then president really cemented for me that there's a lot of the same going on. So I wanted to write a poem that sort of talked about that and also expressed a need for a drastic change. And that change is what I'm calling reparations. And so this poem is in 5 parts. And it uses, in some of the sections, it uses words from that speech directly. And in other sections, the words are mine. And I think you'll be able to tell which is which pretty easily. It's called Reparations Now, Reparations Tomorrow, Reparations Forever. 1, the governor speaks. Before I begin, patience. My heart, by which I mean my anxious country, will never forget the folks we beat. The little lady who couldn't see too well, the blessed opposition, the vote. This debt, this duty to every man, woman, and child. No Black shall have his livelihood, his future. We have stolen it away with our happy money. Jefferson Davis's loving blood. 2, Mo Money interlude. Money got mo problems. Money got a Maserati. Money got mo money. Money got your mama and your daddy too. Money got no expiration date. Money got pennies and paper cuts. Money got a white man on its face. Money got faces. Money is nothing Black. Even the ink is green. Money don't know your name. Money paid the price for our sins, for our freedom. Money got math we can't learn. Money says it trusts in God. What God trusts money? Jesus, money, and Joseph. Money descended from Ham. Money watches us naked. Money curses us, rich and poor. Money said, separate but equal. Money said, 3/5 a man. Money said, 77 years ago. 3, altar call. The poet reproduces Wallace's exact words. In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. 4, praise break. The governor channels the spirit of his God. Riot. Children, you can write that down. Mississippi was a B-29 bomber in this war to stop residential integration. Hypocrisy. Let us send this message. We, tyranny, shall put our heel on the neck of Washington, of those insipid judges who send smoke signals to the White House, those who are not worth the honor of their race. Hear me, Southerners. Your hearts live in the soil of Dixieland. Your rock-ribbed patriotism, your flaming spirit for segregation and freedom has been blessed by God. Alabama is the center of the world. God has given this to us, a heritage of unimpeachable authority and power. This ungodly government, these degenerates are the very opposite of Christ. Children, say a prayer for our dollars, our founding fathers, our faith, our power. 5, a case for reparations. When, Governor, can we enjoy the full richness of the great American dream? My grandmother was a sharecropper. My grandfather beat his Black wife and Black children. My uncle was arrested for a crime he didn't commit. In America, even the shadows of Black people are Black enough to hide all innocence. Some nights, I dream of being killed like Emmett Till, or Trayvon Martin, or Sandra Bland, or insert Black person's name here. Some nights, I insert my name there. Is that the American dream? Governor, president, mayor, boss man, woman with a cell phone or a police badge or a bank account and the skin tender enough to make murder legal. When will you be tired of the taste of Black blood? Sometimes I'm singing a song and you make that feel like death. Sometimes I'm dancing a dance and you make that feel like shame. Sometimes I'm sitting on my porch just trying to eat a damn melon and you make that feel like I'm selling my Black soul. My parents told me I could be anything, even God. That's the least I'm owed. To know I'm worth heaven, yes, but also worth a life on earth. My mother told us we were pretty enough to be dolls, pretty enough to be praised in the book of Barbie. That's the least I'm owed. A face, skin, hair, so obviously, inherently, objectively beautiful. It's frozen in plastic and sold to kids all over America to hug and love and look at with the eyes of dreams. What, you think all I want is money? What, you think money can ever repay what you stole? Give me land. Give me all the blood you ripped out of our backs, our veins. Give me every snapped neck and the noose you wove to hoist the body up. Give me the screams you silenced in so many dark and lustful rooms. Give me the songs you said were yours, but you know came out of our lips first. Give me back Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and Medgar Evers. Give me back the beauty of my hair, the swell of my hips, the big of my lips. Give me back the whole Atlantic Ocean. Give me a never-ending blue and a mule. Thank you. Okay, y'all are very sweet to stand up and clap. That's very kind. So if anybody has a question, I can answer a few of those before we do signing. You don't have to have a question. Let me start there. But if you have one that you want to ask, I'm happy to answer some questions. And I should say I'm a teacher, so I can just stare at you. That's possible.
How are you feeling?
Who was that? Hey, Taylor. I'm good. How are you, Taylor? Congratulations on your new job, by the way. Yes, yay, Taylor. I'm feeling okay. I'm glad that this reading is over. I mean, I enjoy reading, but y'all know it's been a very difficult 2 years, and I just have a lot of anxiety around the pandemic in general. It's hard every day to know, is this the day that I learned that I have a deathly illness, or is it tomorrow, or, you know. And of course, teaching school, I'm constantly worried about my students, and I don't want anything to ever happen to any of them for as long as they live, but certainly not this. So, but I'm feeling pretty good other than that, yes.
And I call for real.
Yes.
So this past 2 years have been so bizarre and painful, and it just feels like there's no light at the end of this tunnel. What is your writing process now? Has it changed, or how do you keep that light going?
It's mostly the same. I'm not an everyday writer in general, which I know is maybe bad to say publicly, because you're supposed to write every day, but I just don't. You know, I write when the spirit tells me to write. So, you know, when I had my pandemic pause, because I definitely had one, when it first started, I didn't even want to think about writing. It wasn't unusual for me. Like, I usually go through periods, months sometimes, where I don't write. So once the switch flipped, I was able to keep writing, and it was kind of like normal. So I just kind of let life happen. And now during the pandemic, I just let the pandemic take precedent so I could see the next day to maybe think about writing. But that's pretty much how it's gone. You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Yes, sir. What a question. It feels like you're asking for yourself, perhaps.
Well, kind of, because you know, writing is so much kind of like my own. I'm trying. It's just so much like my own.
Well, here's my official answer to that question. I, in general, don't have a lot of time to really do much of anything but all the jobs that I work. However, now that I'm poet laureate, I'm going to be offering, and I don't know details yet, this is just world premiere, giving my idea. I want to offer workshops so that people like you can come and we can talk about your work in a group, you know, together. So yes, but I don't know when yet, is the answer. Yes, Miss York.
How has being a teacher influenced you as a poet?
It's like you've been planted to say this, Miss York. She wasn't. I mean, she was not, although I have known her most of my life. So if I was not a teacher, I would definitely not be a very good writer. I can say that very definitely, because for one, I kind of need life to happen to be able to write, and teaching is always different every single day. But also the students are so brilliant. They show me new ways to be a writer, honestly. And they don't always know this. I spy one of my students in the back. I'm not gonna, well, I pointed at you, sorry. No. But seeing what they come up with and seeing how curious they are and just how their discovery, happens when they first realize, oh, I can do this. That inspires me constantly. And then also knowing that they are maybe looking at me to see what I'm doing, I gotta keep on my toes. I can't be caught slipping, because they want to see what an adult writer does. So I gotta do what an adult writer does. But yeah, I love it. And I mean, you can't beat having a steady job. Let me just say that also. That's fantastic. So yeah, there's my answer. Maybe one more. Is that Riley Donlin?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Riley, wow. Hi.
I wanted to ask if, what role does this book play in like relation to the others? Is there like something that you think that each book has fulfilled, and what is this one in relation to us?
Wow, okay, that's a $10 question there. So I think that this book is the most me of all of them. I love all my books, and they all are me. But as you move through your career, you start to get more and more confident, or at least I have started to get more confident in who I am. And I don't feel the need to like prove anything to anybody. I can just say what I want to say, and that's going to be that, So I think this book is maybe the start of that part of my journey, where I'm just even more authentic on the page and more concerned with just putting myself there instead of saying, okay, here's all the technical stuff I can do. Here's all the words I can list so you can think I'm real. Like, no, I already was real before all of that. I know that now, and I can just write out of that feeling instead of a feeling of trying to measure up to some academic standards. So, okay, we'll take, I guess, one more. I don't even know what time it is. I don't want to keep y'all from your families. Yes. Yes.
I was wondering when your dreams of becoming a poet started.
It's a great question. So I always joke that I was born an old lady because I've always been just very serious. And those who know me for a while probably know that I was just, I don't know, maybe a boring kind of kid because I was just very focused. But I remember being super young and learning that Toni Morrison was the Nobel, laureate. She won a Nobel Prize, and I thought, I'm going to do that. I want to be just like her, so I'm going to do that. And then I started adding, as the years went on, different goals. So once I learned that there was a poet laureate of our nation, I said, oh, I want to do that. Then I thought, oh, maybe I could start with the state poet laureateship to build, up the correct way. But yeah, so it's been many years. I would say maybe I was 12 or 13-ish when I started kind of thinking about having the laureate positions. But since I was really, really little, I knew I was going to be a writer. I was going to win a Nobel Prize. And back then I thought I was going to be both a gymnast and a psychologist. And obviously that has not come to pass because I am not flexible by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, it's been quite a while for me. Well, I think that's plenty of questions. I've talked for long enough, I'm sure. So thank y'all again for coming, and I'm happy to sign your book after this.
For anybody who would like Ashley to sign or personalize their book, we're going to have you set up here, Ashley. And if the line, maybe we could part the Red Sea a little bit with these chairs, and we could just form a line, and everybody just kind of wait here at the edge of the stage and go up one by one, just so we're not all clustering and hoarding. Everybody's a grown up. I know everybody will do just great. So, thank you again. Thank you, Ashley.